but we don't get to dictate how they spend it. Joining me now to discuss why in the world these senators would do this, Texas Congressman Louie Gohmert. Louie, long time no see. How you been, Congressman?
Well, as far as I know, I've been all right. You've been looking good the whole time.
Thanks. Well, a little R&R. I took a week off last week, so I'm all refreshed. But then I come back and I hear this news, and I think the stress and frown wrinkles are going to come back because I'm not too happy with some of these Republican senators. Can you tell us, Mr. Gohmert, what in the heck is going on? Because we know your boss, Miss Nancy, said they're not going to approve this 1.2 or 1.5 trillion anyway, because she wants more in the reconciliation package. So what's going to happen when it comes to you guys and gals in the House?
Well, it's going to be interesting because the squad has said they're not going to vote for this small, $1+ trillion so-called infrastructure bill unless they get to add $3.5 trillion of debt on top of that. And now this week, we've heard from some so-called moderates. I think that's ridiculous. They're liberals, but they have a conscience. And they're going, wait, we can't vote for a $3.5 trillion deficit add-on. So let's just vote on the infrastructure bill. Because if you are going to bring that other one, we're not sure we can vote for the little deficit add-on. And that does mean $250 billion out of this. But Dan, so important what you pointed out that like 110 billion, less than 1/10 of this bill is for real infrastructure. And we've been hearing for years that our infrastructure, roads, bridges, dams, all pretty important, that they get a D when compared with where they should be for safety. So not only are we not going to give the next generation's debt-free government, we're adding on to the deficit, and we're not going to improve that grade hardly at all because most of it is going to make a lot of people rich. It's going to go to buy votes, and it's not going to help us through this difficult time in our country. So you've got senators who think that the country want them to show they're being bipartisan. Bipartisan to Democrats means you agree to everything we want. Bipartisan to Republicans means, well, we just get some Democrats and doesn't matter what we come out with as long as a bunch of us from both sides vote together. But it is a disaster what they're doing to this country. It is just almost unforgivable.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up that point, that there were actually some, and we can use the term because they spoke out against Ms. Pelosi, moderate Democrats in the House, your colleagues, who have said they do not want to vote on this if it has to include the reconciliation, which Nancy Pelosi says it must. Let's talk about that 3.2, 3.5. Again, I've got the numbers off, but I know it's over 3 trillion she wants. Where's a lot of that cash going? Because from what I've seen online, what I can discover, I don't have time to read through the thousands of pages of these stupid bills that, no offense, some of you guys write up there in D.C.
Yeah, you're right.
It seems like a lot of sweetheart deals going to certain states and certain districts, and most of them have a D in front of their name on where this cash is going. Not the infrastructure I'm talking, the reconciliation package.
Right. Well, and you have to wonder what exactly is in this infrastructure, so-called infrastructure bill, to have some of the people that you wouldn't suspect would sign on and vote for this to vote for it. It makes you wonder what is in this that we haven't seen going to states whose senators are voting for it. But then on the so-called reconciliation bill that they want to be part of the infrastructure bill, as they've indicated, they think that the people are the infrastructure. Look, we come and go normally within 100 years. The infrastructure, it has got to be maintained because it's got to go on and on past 100 years. And that's not what they're taking care of. And what we're seeing is a lot of money, and we don't know what's all in it yet. It's so massive, but a lot of it definitely will be going to Democrat groups who put out or get out the vote whether it's legally or illegal votes, they turn into votes come election time. And it is really the way it's being spent, the things that we're seeing so far, it would just make sure there was only one party left in the United States with any power.
Yeah, I'd like to see, I'm all for broadband. Technology is, obviously we know that's the way of the future. We've got a horrible broadband in rural areas around the country. So I agree with that. Clean water, I agree. Let's get our schools, roads, and bridges fixed, like you said. But the amount of cash, only 110 or 11 billion of the 1.2 trillion is peanuts. That's not going to fix, like you said, our failing, crumbling schools and roads and bridges, which is what I think people want when they hear the word infrastructure. Louie, almost out of time, but I just want to get your take on something real quick because we're going to be discussing it later in the show. And it does have to do with senators, one in particular, because I really like this guy. Did you happen to see Senator Rand Paul's video about COVID, the vaccine passports, pushing the shot, the new restrictions and lockdowns and mandates that he put out, pretty much telling all Americans to resist? I firmly agree with it. I'm taking a stand later in the program about it, that we got to start taking to the streets like they're doing in Italy, like they're doing in France, like they're doing in Germany. They're standing up. And Rand Paul said it this weekend with this video saying, enough's enough, resist. There's more of us than there are of them. Few seconds left, Louie. Your comments on that.
We've got to get back to informed consent. We have got to have full approval from the FDA, meaning 10 years out, what's going to happen 20 years out. We've got to know the long-term effects. Give people a choice. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but we have to get back to advising people what the risks are. Let them make the decision and forget the vax passports. They have got to be stopped.
Thank you. That's what I'm not getting the shot. I had it. I have natural antibodies. I think that's better than the vax, my opinion. But I think as Americans, what we've enjoyed for 247 years is choice, freedom of choice. And we're not having it under Democrats. Louie Gohmert, Congressman, Texas 1st District. Thank you so much for coming back on the program. Take care.